We've got our DC correspondent in the building for this one, Maddie Peltz.
No, it's me, Bob Silverman. I'm here in Manhattan. I'm actually not in Manhattan. I'm at Citi Field, enjoying the New York Mets. I have never heard of this Madeline Peltz person. I don't know why it got like a speech impediment.
All of a sudden it started to sound like fucking Count Dracula.
I want your New York Mets. One of my delusional beliefs is that I would just immediately be really good at golf.
Tell me more.
With no practice.
Do you have any tips for me?
I just totally swing at it and just aim for the grass.
Totally swing at it.
Yeah, that's usually what I try to do.
Just totally swing at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Posting Through It. You guys know what it is. It's another week. Another episode.
It's another week. You know what it is. We're all moving around on a big rock flying through space.
Dude, I'm on vacation right now, Mike.
Yeah,
I'm recording
a week on a calendar.
I'm recording from the condo on vacation. If you haven't signed up yet, go check out our Patreon. You can get weekly bonus episodes. Our most recent one was about all things White House Correspondents' Dinner. And I just want to put out another call for listener music. Or if you've sent me listener music already and we haven't played it on the show yet, just message me again. I've had a lot of stuff going on, and there's a chance that there's a couple that I got that are just buried in my DMs somewhere. But joining the show now, we have Miss Met herself.
It's Mrs. Met, by the way.
Mrs. Met. Oh, sorry.
All the depressed Met fans are gooning over Mrs. Met, so that's a big problem for her husband.
I'm the classic Mets Bears fan.
Yes.
Yeah, there's dozens of you guys.
I've become fully obsessed to the point of fixation with Mrs. Met. They were this weird baseball headed mascot that we have. Let's give him an impossibly sexy wife.
Yes. There are people, for people who are unaware of the discourse around Mrs. Met, although the Mets season is spiraling very fast, there's a lot of talk about people asking Mrs. Met for feed pics on Instagram.
I actually have a note in my phone of Michael Hayden comments about New York sports. I can share the first one, which is, the Mets are out of the playoffs, and now I just need someone to hold me.
Yeah,
that was last year.
That was last year. I believe that was last year.
If you want more, subscribe to the Creamium.
You already know. Well, our last Creamium was about the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which came to an abrupt end. But I understand that you were there, not in the ballroom, but around. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I live in DC. I came to DC in 2016 ready to be the next Hillary Clinton. And of course, the highest and best sign that you have achieved that status is an invitation to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. This town is full of losers and student government presidents, and they only want one thing, and that is to be invited to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. That has not happened to me because as soon as I got here, I realized I didn't really fit in, and I didn't want to wear kitten heels on the metro all the time. So the first time that I stood outside of the White House Correspondents' Dinner and heckled people as they went into the dinner was in 2024, when there was a major pro-Palestine anti-Israel protest. There was amazing installation honoring murdered journalists that had been killed by Israel in Palestine, and it was a really eye-opening and heartfelt event. This year it was pouring rain, and we decided to go out there just because I've started to film video content, and I didn't know if there would maybe be people to interview or something on the scene that would be interesting for my audience. And like it was pouring rain, there was a very small protest crowd. But yes, it is very cathartic to watch protesters heckle members of the White House press corps who are dining with war criminals and, self-promoting corrupt politicians in the Trump administration. So I was there outside, but I left well before, the inciting incident.
When you say they're heckling the journalists as they're going in, I mean, like, what are they saying exactly?
Imagine standing outside of the Washington Hilton and chanting shame at the legacy media as they go into the hotel in their black tie. It is a one-of-a-kind experience.
I think it sums up a particular kind of hypocrisy or whatever, disconnect maybe, around this particular moment in which you have these anchors on cable news and all these very esteemed liberal pundits who have very wealthy jobs talking about how this is the end of democracy as we know it, that this is the end of this, that, and the other thing. And then they turn around and cozy up to the Trump administration and do so publicly. It reminds me also of just the kind of reporting you would get from Maggie Haberman and those type of people where all they really want to do, it seems, is just align themselves closer to get more access, et cetera. And then they turn around and be like, oh, this person is so horrible. What an ogre.
Yeah, it's just, what's the term? Palace intrigue, right? As much as they may ostensibly or sincerely be alarmed by what's happening, that does not override their desire to feel important and to get closer to people who are important.
I mean, it's just like you have hundreds of journalists in Palestine and Lebanon who lost their lives covering the war, but that's worth overlooking so that you can rent an Oscar de la Renta dress off of Rent the One runway and put your little heels on and send your little selfies to mom and dad. Oh, mom and dad, I got invited. I'm important. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. It's about impressing people from your hometown and making yourself into a big deal and letting everyone know that you're better than them. I mean, it's the culture of DC is so rotten. It is so repulsive. It's, very alienating.
Where were you when the guy who's definitely not a posting through it listener did not shoot Kash Patel because he was too cool to be shot? Where were you when that happened?
I was at Jackie Lee's. It's a bar uptown with Hannah Geis. Actually, I'm not sure Hannah hadn't gotten in there yet, but I was with some friends at a bar.
The podcast community is suddenly sounding much more incestuous. Okay, got it.
Well, the next day, you went somewhere else that was also eventful, and what we're going to be talking about on this episode, which is that you went to the Supreme Court where some activists aligned with the MAHA, or Make America Healthy Again movement, were protesting. And I wanted to talk about this now, because we got some requests from our listeners to unpack it a little bit, and you're a great person to do that with. But also because I've been seeing some headlines that there may be some rifts forming in this movement, and I'm curious, this isn't a movement that I personally have spent a lot of time looking into, and I'm curious to understand what exactly is going on there. Just to get us started, Make America Healthy Again, as it exists as a movement, what is it? Because I'm sure a lot of our listeners have seen MAHA or heard about this, but what are we talking about exactly?
So MAHA is really a ragtag coalition. Make America Healthy Again is the banner under which Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who ran for president in 2024, united his followers in order to transfer that coalition to support for Trump. So it contains a wide swath of people who are concerned about health and wellness. I think that there are really two types of MAHA voters. Some of them are anti-vaccine activists and whose core beliefs lie in conspiracies about vaccines, especially the childhood vaccine schedule. And another portion of them are health and wellness consumers, essentially voters, people who are concerned about product and food safety and and the systems that produce them in America. This also lends itself to some conspiratorial thinking. MAHA leaders and influencers, it's really a social media driven movement, tend to overstate the science on nutrition, on the manufacturing process, in order to make sensationalized claims that are feed the algorithm and feed engagement. So I first, the first MAHA event I went to was in September 2024. It was called the Rescue the Republic rally. And Molly Ball described this event in Wall Street Journal as, quote, the coalition of the weird. And so if you go to a MAHA event, you're going to see like pot smoking hippies. You're going to see environmentalists. You're going to see anti-corporate consumer right activists. You're also going to see like right-leaning health and wellness influencers and anti-vaccine activists. And, ultimately this was a key coalition that pushed Trump over the top in 2024.
No, hold on. When you say that there are like pot smoking hippies at the Rescue the Republic rally, which to me sounds indistinguishable. I don't know about you, Jared, but it sounds indistinguishable from a QAnon event to me, right? It's the same type of branding.
Yeah, well, a lot of like the QAnon movement really blew up during COVID, so there was a lot of kind of gateway effect things happening there where people would start with the health and wellness, get deep on conspiracy theories on those topics and wind up in QAnon. So there has historically been like some overlap between those two, but yeah, I mean, when I hear pot smoking hippies, anti-corporate, we need to crack down on processed foods and supplements and whatever, like that to me sounds like kind of a little bit left coded. So
Yeah, that's why I was trying to wonder. I was saying the branding sounds like QAnon, but like the pot smoking hippies part, like how do they reconcile with being aligned with Trump?
I mean, I think that the MAHA movement has a lower partisan identification than other parts of the MAGA coalition. So these voters are very much up for grabs and they're very issue oriented. And those issues run the gambit from legitimate concern over consumer safety, which was what we saw on display at the Supreme Court this week, to, full-fledged anti-vaccine conspiracies. And even in some sort of darker corners of MAHA, there is this undercurrent of eugenics, which is the belief that disability or chronic disease cannot be caused by, genetic factors or things that are outside of your control, as is the case for so many people in this country. Like, they put the onus entirely on individuals, that lifestyle changes can prevent anything from dementia to erectile dysfunction. And this is what I'm talking about when I say they like overstate the science. Like, RFK will say something like going on the keto diet can cure schizophrenia or treat schizophrenia. But then you have the actual author of that study has to come out and push back and say like, nuance his views, because these scientific studies are dry and they are often fall in the gray area of like what the conclusions mean. I mean, if you've ever tried to like read a nutritional study, it's not exactly Lord of the Rings. Like, it's pretty boring. So they take that and they put this clippable, Instagrammable sheen over legitimate science.
So tell me more about the rally you went to with MAHA activists outside the Supreme Court last week.
So on Monday, past Monday, I went to the People versus Poison rally outside of the Supreme Court. inside, the justices were hearing arguments in the case Monsanto versus Durnell. This lawsuit has been going on for years. Farmers and other plaintiffs have sued Monsanto, which is now owned by pharmaceutical giant Bayer, because they believe that they contracted cancer from the active ingredient glyphosate in the weed-killing product Roundup. From what I can tell online, and I'm really not an expert on this kind of thing, the science on whether glyphosate causes cancer is somewhat contested, but Bayer and Monsanto have been forced to pay out billions of dollars in damages for people who came into contact with Roundup and contracted cancer, specifically non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, under state laws. The plaintiffs say that Monsanto and Bayer failed to warn them about the risks of using Roundup. And the company defends itself by saying that an EPA guidance preempts the state-level laws around failure to warn. So that's the conflict that the Supreme Court justices are considering. And from what I read in the press, they seem kind of divided. It wasn't entirely clear from arguments how they'd ruled. So we'll find out about that soon.
It's not like these companies, just in case people are, listening to this and predisposed to criticize this movement. It's not like these companies are good.
Yeah.
It's not like these companies are good companies. These are like they're preying on. I mean, they're targeting stuff that is pretty bad and pretty gross. Like I remember these type of campaigns starting in the 90s, but they didn't have that. They didn't have social media back then, so it was more like a sort of a word of mouth thing, and it was mostly the impression was like California hippies that wanted to eat a particular way and stuff like that. I mean, Monsanto, not a good company.
No tears shed here for Monsanto.
Yeah, thousands of people have sued Monsanto for contracting cancer after using Roundup. These companies should properly warn consumers on this. MAHA is really onto something. And that's what makes characterizing MAHA so difficult, is because they really are tapping into a deeper distrust of consumer culture that resonates across the political spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that, because it does resonate across the political spectrum, but these issues today are being championed by people like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's in the Trump administration, Steve Bannon, for example. Tell me a bit about how this kind of came to be. When was the first time you noticed that the right was kind of stepping up to champion these sorts of issues, and how has that played out? Like, what does that look like?
I mean, I started noticing this from Turning Point USA in 2021, 2022. They have an influencer named Alex Clark who was really pivoting her brand away from pop culture. She had a show called Poplitics.
It was so bad.
The tagline was pop culture without the propaganda. And so she was like a conservative Swiftie, and she would talk about Ryan Reynolds. I don't even know. She would, there wasn't much there. It's it didn't really catch on. And what she started to do was pivot her brand towards health and wellness, specifically her belief that her autoimmune disorder was caused by hormonal birth control. And that really started things for her. And, and I write about this in my book, and I really think that this is not well understood. I think that the Dobbs ruling in 2022 really created a panic among young women, especially around health and wellness. And of course, COVID. I mean, obviously, so much of, RFK was a fringe figure for so long, and people were at home during COVID, and they were dissatisfied with the mainstream response to COVID and all of the ways in which that placed the onus of controlling the virus on individuals rather than the government and corporations. And people, revolted against COVID restrictions, and so all of these things combined, really coalesced with RFK's doomed 2024 presidential campaign. But then, he offered his endorsement to both Harris and Trump, and Harris said no, which is probably the right thing to do, right? RFK is a nut, But, the Democrats at the same time failed to speak to these issues, which is concern about consumer safety, concern about access to safe public places where your kids can play in the park. Like, these are things that parents are really worried about. And to point at all of MAHA and say this is just conspiracy land is like really a political mistake.
What did that look like in terms of the scene outside the Supreme Court? I mean, we're talking about a movement that, at least on its face, has like a cross ideological appeal, right? But there you are in DC while the Trump administration is in power. The person you're hoping will back you up is RFK Jr. You're outside the Supreme Court. Is that clicking? Does it seem like most of those people are Trump supporters at this point, or what was your read of that?
Most of the people I talked to aligned themselves with the MAHA movement and had previously voted for Trump, and many of them expressed their disappointment with the administration, which we can get into. But I also spoke to a woman who said she was a leftist. I spoke to someone who is a leader at the Rachel Carson Council, which is an environmental and consumer safety organization. I spoke to a woman who, I interviewed this woman and I asked her a question about whether she was disappointed with the Trump administration. And she immediately was like, I don't want to talk about politics. Like, why is everyone going political? And it's like, okay, we're at like a rally outside of the Supreme Court, but like, she felt that she had healed her chronic disease by eating healthier. And, that's what brought her out, and that was not part of a political project. So you have people from all sorts of affiliations who are uniting under, this anger at big business. And I will also note that Democratic politicians spoke at this rally. Cory Booker spoke. He went so far as to quote Martin Luther King Jr., which I find to be incredibly cynical. And also Tim Ryan of Ohio spoke.
Did Booker get out there and say he has a dream? Did he say he has a dream for healthy food? Or
I can't remember, and I don't want to misquote both Cory Booker and Martin Luther King at the same time.
I have a dream where an industrial weed killer will be judged by the contents of its chemical makeup.
And I will be president.
I mean, it's just
I will be president of the United States.
And I will be the first vegan president. Thank you.
Is he vegan?
Yes.
He's vegan, yeah.
He's
no
vegan.
Shit. Oh,
my wife is vegan, which means I know every famous vegan person.
You see it every because the vegans are always telling you who's a vegan. We respect our vegans around here. I just want to be clear.
We love vegans, yeah.
Any health and wellness message from Cory Booker, I think, is belied by his pretty much unconditional support for arming Israel in its genocide against Palestine. I think that anyone who does that really isn't sincere about the livelihoods of ordinary people. Like, give me a break.
He seems like somebody who you get, I don't want to sidetrack us, but he seems like somebody who could get roughed up pretty bad in a primary when the topic of Israel would come up. He just seems like a person who would really stutter and stammer trying to explain why his policies are what they are.
I mean, I think that anyone who wants to be the Democratic nominee for president in 2028 that either has a history of accepting AIPAC donations or equivocates on the issue of Israel is a doomed candidate. I think it's and I'm not just saying, I think that is a disqualifying feature for the average Democratic voter at this point.
Now, on that note here, he's down there, he's talking up these people, he's talking up whomever. It seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, like the type of material that a left-wing candidate should be able to clean up on. I mean, so much of this is about corporate, greed and corporate negligence. I mean, it seems like these are arguments to be won here. Wasn't the Democrats in trouble for being the party of telling people to drink less soda and stuff like that? Wasn't it recently that they were the more healthy ones? Like Michelle Obama was like, every kid gets an apple, and they're like, she's a communist.
But then she made pizza a vegetable, and I forgave her.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, isn't this something they should be able to clean up at? Given that this is there, or do these people only want left-wing stuff, left-wing content in a Republican shell?
Well, I'll just say the Democratic Party hardly qualifies as a left-wing party. It is in
Okay, that's fair.
in
That's
in
fair.
any country it would be considered a center-right party. So it's not, it, and of course, as far as I can tell, Zoran Mamdani is the leader of the Democratic Party, and he has captured this type of anti-big business sentiment that I think so many Democratic voters are animated by right now.
And when you say that, you're saying that based upon the amount of engagement that he does on social media, just the fact that like he seems to be the only person who like really sets the agenda just based upon the things he says.
On a daily basis, Zoran Mamdani is getting millions of views online for filling potholes. For like local New York City municipal issues and getting out there and filming content of himself, whatever, digging ditches or putting lids on garbage cans. Like people, and I promise you, not everyone who is watching those videos considers themselves a Zoran Mamdani fan or a socialist, but people appreciate authenticity in this moment. And, the Democratic Party won't even release the contents of its autopsy report post 2024. They are completely leaderless, and it has created a power vacuum for the mayor of New York City and a hunky live streamer from California, Hassan Piker, to become like the most popular voices, on the left. And they can deny that as much as they want to, but Cory Booker is not going to save them unless you start hearing from him about these issues that are animating people that are largely anti-big business, anti-billionaire. These are things that people on the left and right are angry about. And if the Democratic Party abdicates anti-billionaire, anti-business, positions to someone like Trump and RFK, I mean, it's just
You're
a
doomed.
complete indictment of the entire structure.
Doomed. Just completely doomed. Yeah. Well, speaking of online engagement, social media, there's like a whole niche, almost like micro industry of make America healthy again type of content. You mentioned Alex Clark, but can you kind of sketch out what that looks like more broadly? I mean, how big is this sort of media ecosystem built around these issues?
I mean, it's big, when I went to, and it's growing, that's another thing, is that it's growing. When I went to the Rescue the Republic rally in September 2024, I looked around at this ragtag crowd and I thought, this is an important thing to keep tabs on, but it's not big enough yet. And I was wrong about that. Like, it very much was big enough and became a key constituency. MAHA content really runs the gambit. At the end of the day, the vast majority of it is about selling stuff, right? Like these influencers are selling you food, meal services, and, like elective MRIs and air purifiers. Like there is a whole cottage industry of MAHA. So like basically you have all of these people who look at the economy and consumer culture and say like something's wrong here, and you have these right-wing influencers or right-coded influencers that come in and just like replicate that, but sort of give lip service to this idea that like something is wrong with your food or something is wrong with your medicine. So a lot of it is like selling you stuff. Some of it is, these activist moments that we saw outside the Supreme Court. That's another thing that the Democratic Party has abdicated to the right, is 24/7, 365 activism, right? Like, when was the last time? I mean, okay, maybe that's unfair because of No Kings. So let me walk that back a little bit. But also,
walk it back.
But also the leaders of No Kings, Indivisible, have been like extremely critical of the leadership of the Democratic Party. Like,
oh, of course,
you
of
didn't
course.
see Barack Obama promoting No Kings protests. He didn't say anything about it. So like,
he hasn't done almost anything,
yes,
except for the showing up next to Mamdani for the whatever it was, like child education thing.
Anyway, you see all kinds of stuff. You see a lot of like sponsored podcasts. You see like recipes and like, come to the grocery store and buy like clean foods with me. There's all kinds of apolitical content that has been funneled up into support for RFK, which, was transferred to support for the president.
It's at the point now where we have people in the administration that were figureheads of this movement, RFK Jr. being the obvious one. We'll talk a minute about Casey Means, but this coalition has gotten so big that it has controls over levers of power in the government, but that hasn't been entirely smooth sailing. Um, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I've seen some news headlines that this coalition is starting to break, and from what I'm picking up, as you've been talking about it, is maybe that this is a movement that aligned itself with Trump in hopes of getting, you know, some concessions or some things delivered on the topics that they cared about, but weren't necessarily like, Forgiato blow, red hat, MAGA hat. I love the president. I got my Trump shirt on. We are
There's also,
Charlie
to be
Kirk.
fair, not much that is exactly like that. That is a very particular thing.
But it's not, die hard, these aren't necessarily the crowd that is at the RNC waving around mass deportation now signs, right? Talk to me about where these cracks have started to form and what that's looked like.
There's been a number of issues that has created a wedge between the Trump administration and the MAHA coalition, which again is not strongly identified with the Republican Party. These voters would switch much more easily than your core, like MAGA hat wearing Forgiato Blow fans.
Forgiato Blow has no fans. They're all sock puppets that are operated by Forgiato Blow himself.
Yeah, he's really cool.
There's 10 legitimate fans and 3 of them are on this show right now.
That's so true. Yeah, shout out to Hannah, who I know is listening and is a huge Forgiato Blow fan, the biggest one.
We all got hip on Forgiato Blow because Hannah Gaze was like, "You have to check out this up and coming hip hop artist." I heard his grandpa started Auto Trader magazine. That is so cool.
That is awesome. Yeah. So this issue in Monsanto versus Darnell has been going on for months, and MAHA has been talking about this case for a very long time. What happened was a couple months ago, Trump issued an executive order advocating to increase production of glyphosate inside the United States. So glyphosate is a key pesticide that protects your crops but kills the weeds. And it's a key ingredient in the common household product Roundup, and it is mostly produced in China. So the national security argument goes that you need to onshore production of glyphosate because, like, if China cut us off, our food system would collapse overnight. Whether that's exactly true, I don't know, but that's like what I've heard bandied about publicly, and what is the justification for Trump's executive order. So the MAHA movement took this as a signal of support for Bayer and Monsanto in this case, and it was received as a tremendous betrayal of the coalition. And the voters really started to revolt about it. The influencers started to communicate the concerns of their audience on their social media platforms. So that was a huge issue. I mean, a lot of MAHA voters are also upset that, that the administration hasn't done more on vaccines, that they haven't done more to curtail the childhood vaccine schedule or what have you. That's another thing I heard a lot about outside of the MAHA rally. And there's also a lot of consternation with some of the decisions, the industry-friendly decisions that EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin has made at the EPA. So altogether, like, MAHA is very unhappy with Trump, just like, all of the other sort of fringe constituencies of MAGA. Like, Trump is just really on the outs with his own base.
Yeah, I remember when Trump and RFK got up there and were like, okay, pregnant women should not be taking what for decades has been understood as the only safe painkiller and fever relief medication, acetaminophen, or the brand name being Tylenol, during pregnancy because it could increase the risk that child that they're carrying develops autism. And I remember seeing some people in this coalition being like, where did this come from? There's like 100 other things we would rather them be doing, but why are they focused on this specifically?
A lot of the concern from MAHA, specifically around vaccines, is a concern about industry capture of government regulation of consumer goods, of medication, of food, our food supply. And that is a legitimate concern. There is a revolving door in Washington of regulators who work in government and then go work for the companies that they were regulating and then go back to government. And that is a massive conflict of interest. The issue is that like genuine concern has been misdirected largely towards vaccines. The damage that RFK is doing at HHS to the bodies that would hold bad corporate actors accountable for putting the public in danger, these industries, these boards are being like completely dismantled. Like almost immediately after inauguration, RFK fired most of the food safety like research team, and the head of food safety at the CDC, or at the head of food safety at FDA resigned. So like now there's no food safety research at HHS, and the MAHA policies are only making more room for the public health to be put in jeopardy.
It just feels like these folks have been led to the slaughter. They got another loss last week when Trump withdrew his nomination for Casey Means to become the Surgeon General. I imagine a lot of people in our audience have no idea who Casey Means is. So maybe we could start there. Who's Casey Means? She should be Casey Nice. She's very mean, very.
The audience likely doesn't know who she is, but she actually has, with her brother, a New York Times #1 bestseller, right, Madeline?
Yes, that's correct. So Casey Means is a health and wellness influencer. That's who she is. She is the second nominee. She's since been replaced by Nicole Safier. So she's sort of like sandwiched between two Fox News contributors. But she's a health and wellness influencer who wrote this best-selling book called Good Energy with her brother, Callie Means. The book ostensibly argues that chronic health, chronic disease is caused by what they call metabolic dysfunction, which is basically saying that like you can make lifestyle choices, what you eat, how you exercise, that will dramatically reduce, if not totally eliminate your risk for chronic disease. And the sort of conspiratorial edge to this is that there is a that industry wants to keep you sick, mainstream medicine wants to keep you a customer, and they don't want you to know this information. So it's written by Casey Means, whose sort of credentials to this dissident brand is that she dropped out of her surgical residency just months before graduation. And her brother, Callie Means, who is an official in the administration, he's a special advisor to RFK, which is not a job that I understand what the functions are. What is a special advisor?
It's RFK turns around and he's like, you think this raccoon carcass is still safe to eat?
I need you to cut off a raccoon's penis for me, if you don't mind. That's what
that was a little Marge.
Marge. Yeah, that's fine. I'll just keep doing it. Yeah. I'll just keep doing Marge. I just want to point out that telling people that the system is created to keep you sick is a brilliant way of getting people to pay you money, right? It's like, because you're completely paranoid all the time. You need someone to kind of unlock you from the spell of the machine, right? Like, it's like, you're like, oh, if someone could do that, and sort of, then you become, it's funny. So the idea is that you are perpetually sick because the world, the system is making you sick. And then now you become a perpetual customer to try to break out of it at the hands of some wellness influencer.
Yeah, so both of them claim that they are whistleblowers on the industry. And both, previous colleagues have all said about both the siblings that they are exaggerating their resumes. So Casey Means says that she was so disgusted by mainstream medicine that she quit her residency But the head of the department and some of her former colleagues say that the reason she left residency was because the work was too stressful. She is a graduate of Stanford Medical School. Her brother, Callie, says that he was a big food and big pharma lobbyist who was disgusted by, industry practices and manipulation, that he became a whistleblower. But his former colleagues all say that he has greatly exaggerated his credentials as a lobbyist. All of this is to the ultimate best and highest goal of selling books and attracting more and more attention to yourself. So while the MAHA coalition was coming together in 2024, Casey and Callie Means had a viral interview with Tucker Carlson that caught the attention of RFK, that ultimately caught the attention of Trump. And through this, food chain in digital media, Casey and Callie Means became sort of like the brain, so to speak, behind MAHA and MAHA policy, and they became key Trump administration insiders.
There's a note here in our document that I need a little bit more information on, which is that Casey Means is really big about the spiritual dimension of wellness. And it says here that she believes your health is directed by your, quote, heart intentions. My question to you, Madeline, is,
Casey Means is like really a crackpot, for real. I'm not exactly sure what the Surgeon General does. I think that they're like the government's top public health messenger. So she also has said that her belief in the quote unquote divine feminine is what led her to renounce hormonal birth control. And like, it's all of these sort of woo-woo beliefs that brings in such a diverse swath of consumers and ultimately voters.
All right, so let me just say at this point, to remind people, you're hearing all this stuff here about the MAHA movement and how buried in some of these grifts there are some serious points. But at the figurehead of this movement is safe to say is one Robert F. Kennedy Jr. How exactly did he become the figurehead of this movement, Madeline?
RFK started his career as like a legitimate environmental lawyer. He was raising the alarm about pollution in water specifically, and mercury poison of fish. And what happened was his environmental activism started to attract the attention of anti-vaccine activists who urged him to start talking about the ingredient fuck, I don't want to say the word.
Don't worry about it. Fuck it. No one cares.
This version of mercury in vaccines that is not toxic and has since been removed from vaccines, but at one point was an ingredient that sort of set off this conspiratorial view of vaccines. And he pivoted his activism from environmental work to anti-vaccine advocacy. The Children's Health Defense is his nonprofit that became the vehicle for his advocacy. It attracted a cult following. And ultimately, and he was growing over time and became a much bigger figure during COVID as anti-vaccine sentiment, it really exploded. And one of his key crossover bridges into the MAGA coalition was Steve Bannon. Bannon had RFK on his show many, many times.
That's right.
Yes.
I memory hold that. Yes.
He was promoting his book, The Real Anthony Fauci, which they say has sold over 1 million copies. So Bannon was a key bridge between RFK, Trump, and the and bringing anti-vaccine sentiment really more forward in the MAGA message.
For people who don't remember, RFK Jr. did run for president, didn't go very well. He ran as an independent. I think he was getting about 5% of the vote at the time that he kind of folded into the MAGA universe. And I will never forget the like absolutely cringe memes that all the MAGA influencers were sharing when he joined. And the fact that I think he came out to like some Foo Fighters song and the Foo Fighters said they didn't want it anymore at like some Arizona rally.
It was
like all these like Turning Point. Yeah, it was like pyrotechnics. The pyrotechnics should have given away that it was Turning Point, something Madeline knows quite a bit about. But this guy's been a weird guy. for a while. And his coalition that he brought in involved people who were slightly right and kind of slightly left, this group that we're talking about here. And I feel like he didn't get enough scrutiny right away just about how fucking weird this guy is. I don't feel like there was enough discussion about that. And then by the absolute skin of his balls, he made it through as the secretary of HHS. I think it was like one vote or something.
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah, one vote. And he's still at that point, there wasn't enough scrutiny of who this guy is. And now we all have him, and he's making decisions based upon whatever quackadoodle shit is right in front of him. So let's just talk about this. He's confirmed in February 13th. And then he sort of launches his Make America Healthy Again agenda. He orders the firing of 5,200 federal health workers across CDC and NIH. Now, that kind of
let's make America healthy again. First order of business, I'm going to fire more than 5,000 health workers.
That was part of the Doge era where they would just cut a bunch of workers and just act like their balls were like 500-pound watermelons. Like, yeah, suck my dick. Look what I did. Early 2025 pushed controversial views linking antidepressants to school shootings and chemicals to gender dysphoria. In the spring of that year, he cut most of the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, halting worker safety programs. Again, more Doge flexing here. The middle of last year, he promoted the idea of letting bird flu spread in poultry to identify immune birds.
Eugenics, but for poultry.
Yeah,
genius shit only.
I only want to eat it. I only want to eat a chicken that has the genetic fortitude to resist a viral disease.
Just let it rip through the poultry population.
September 25 approves $50 million in autism research initiative tied to disputed vaccine autism theories. Why do any of us pay taxes? Can someone remind me that? Late 2025, he pushed for an overhaul of vaccine injury compensation program to include autism claims, which I believe at the time was people warned that this would absolutely break the system because, any person who had any kind of claim to autism could randomly sue. And then around that time, I believe the three of us hung out in a little city called Chicago in the middle of the country. And as that was happening, as the three of us sat down to enjoy a sort of post-Thanksgiving meal together out there.
At my in-laws' house, yeah.
And you're at your in-laws' house with a beautiful view of the
Pierre
Sears
was
Tower.
there.
Gorgeous. There was snow on the ground. There was ice outside.
Yeah, Pierre was there. He had no idea what had just happened.
And there were a lot of topics of discussion. But one of them, I believe at the table, was a discussion about a fellow scribe, another journalist, who goes by the name of Olivia Nuzzi. And Olivia Nuzzi had a book that many people are saying is the greatest book ever written, called American Canto. That's what we're calling it. No one's putting any kind of weird puns together to make it say anything else. And she kind of brought up the RFK Jr. stuff without mentioning him. If you recall, guys, I know you've memory hold some of this yourselves. There were a lot of descriptions of the politician. There's a lot of talk of the politician. Does everybody remember this? More genius shit. But it didn't really get exciting until Ryan Lizza started to do some commentary about it. In retrospect, it was almost like a kamikaze mission from Ryan Lizza. He was a writer with the New Yorker who had been, for people who don't remember, who had been in a relationship with Olivia Nuzzi before she apparently cheated on him with RFK Jr. And he himself has had a kind of, star-crossed career. That's a polite way to put it. So he kind of went all in on getting Substack subscribers by doing a tell-all of everything he knew about RFK Jr. and Olivia Nuzzi. And a certain Madeline Peltz is here actually paid Ryan Lizza money in order to get all this content so that we could all talk about it on Posting Through.
I did that for us.
We got
one
a team player
kamikaze
here.
mission after another.
I will just say that in the middle of all of this Ryan Lizza stuff, one time Michael and I were at Whole Foods, and he was doing this bit where he like identified a random unsuspecting man and kept saying that he was Ryan Lizza. He was like, "Yo, Ryan Lizza's over there. It's Ryan Lizza." I was like, "No, it's not." I was like, "Are you kidding?" And like,
That's me when I'm in DC. I'm like, look, it's Ryan Lizza. Oh my God, it's David Frum. Right? It's like I have to assume like it's me, like like when you're in Hollywood and
then I turn to Madeline and I go, David Frum, like the guy that's in our group chat?
David Frum, the New York financier.
So
I heard he was dead.
So I think this is a part of what we're discussing with RFK Jr. I think we should just run down a few of the things we learned here. Jared, do you want to just remind us? I put some notes here.
Yeah. So Ryan Lizza, around the time that Olivia Nuzzi's book came out, which I saw in the O'Hare airport the other day, and the book jacket was covered in dust. I couldn't believe they still had a copy on the
They
shelf.
should be stalking strange people on the motherfucking hill is what they should be doing.
What I can't imagine is like getting ready for a flight, like a domestic flight in the United terminal, and being like, I gotta get something to read. What am I gonna read?
I'm gonna nosy out here.
American Conto. This sounds good.
Some poor person was totally uninformed, just picked it up and based upon some of the stuff that was on the book jacket, and we're just like, well, maybe I'll pick this up.
No, dude, but the funniest part was in the airport bookstore, it was juxtaposed next to Jane Goodall. So I was like, yeah, I guess these are both kind of books about apes, right?
Yes.
Okay, anyway, Ryan Lizza claimed that Olivia Nuzzi, when she was in this relationship with RFK Jr., which began after she profiled him for New Yorker or New York Magazine. I always get those mixed up.
I think it was New York Magazine.
New York Magazine. New Yorker is classy. New York Magazine is often very good too, but so she profiles him. They develop this digital texting, very quickly becoming sexually intimate relationship over the phone. And he claims that Olivia Nuzzi basically became a political operative for RFK Jr. His examples that he provided were, he claims that Olivia Nuzzi shared information with the campaign, between the campaign and third parties, opposition research, and used some of her time to contribute to his campaign, including coming up with communication strategies, even advising him down to the detail of what color suit he should wear during the Republican debate.
You remember more than I remember.
Blue. The suit was blue.
It was blue.
Oh, wow. You guys.
That's correct. Mike, I think Madeline and I we're operating on a tier that's a little higher. I'm going to need you to cook that brain a little bit more if we're going to keep this show going.
Well, let's all recall that there were some very sexually explicit text messages that were recited based upon this. And then one of them, there were many, but there was one in which RFK Jr. said, I want to release my harvest in your mouth. And then there was the question of, is the harvest pee or cum?
Cum.
It's a thin line, man. Thin line. Comes out of the same part. All I'm saying.
And RFK Jr., to be fair, may not know the difference between the two. Then there was a lot of domination, submission themes, sort of like wanting to control or impregnate her. Lizza portrayed the relationship as intense, manipulative, psychologically charged, alleged that RFK Jr. maintained these kind of deliberately irregular contact where sometimes he would be in touch and then he would disappear to like leave her hanging on, clinging on to him, just desperate like for him to call back because she was so smitten with this weird guy. Claims that RFK Jr.'s orbit, his people, exerted pressure around Nuzzi's loyalty and handling of the situation. Said that RFK Jr. did roids, which can't believe that. It's just a 7-year-old man like who looks like an action figure doing bench press. And then the one that I know that is not on this list that I remember from maybe the last one Madeline got off of Ryan Lizza is that she should drive around in her car, right? Like, didn't she like drive around in her car?
Yeah, and I think she took Adderall to like drive for long periods of time and wait for RFK to call her.
So cool.
There's down
She's so
bad
cool.
and then there's down bad.
So anyway, this guy on December 5th, 2025, ended the CDC's universal recommendation for newborn hepatitis B vaccination, which was a huge change in policy. In February of this year, a Senate report accused RFK's tenure of being marked by chaos and harm across health systems. And then that gets us to also February 2026. We've got a story in the New York Post.
Which we didn't cover on here yet, but
No.
it's got some good information, Jared.
Madeline, you want to help us out? I know this is one of your favorite publications. You and Todd Blanche also. I
You
know
missed that, actually.
I
Well,
know
maybe
you,
she's heard the episode, but yeah, Todd Blanche says he gets all his news from
It's
the
so
New York
fucking
Post.
awesome.
I know you guys both start the day by sitting on the toilet and reading the New York Post
No,
on your phone, not on paper.
the New York Post is a storied institution. I'm trying to figure out what I want my next tattoo to be. So maybe the New York Post logo, but I'm open to other suggestions from posting through it, listeners. I like for my tattoos to be whimsical and meaningless. Okay, that's not what we're here for. So in February 2026, New York Post article detailed RFK's years of heroin use and doing coke as Jared just teed up. He apparently had a 14-year heroin addiction, which started in his teen years after his father's 1968 assassination. I don't know if you know
To be clear,
this.
that would mess with a lot of people, and so like, I'm a little bit open to feeling bad for somebody who falls into heroin addiction immediately after his father's assassination. I just don't know if I want him deciding my.
Yeah, you know what you do? You become Hunter Biden, okay? Hunter Biden is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, he isn't hurt anybody. He is fucking cool. I mean,
It's cool.
don't.
He's getting rich off Ukraine.
Yeah, dude, you make some art. You get a couple board seats on like weird, Eastern Asian oil companies. You just chill, man.
Yeah, no, Hunter Biden is a chiller for sure. He said his heavy drug use continued into his 20s, which, that period is a really formative time for your brain development. And he once described his adolescence as lasting until age 29, spiritually millennial thing to do.
Maybe that's why Olivia Nuzzi liked him so much.
He claimed he was introduced to drugs like LSD and methamphetamine at 14 years old.
Those are very different drugs.
Yeah,
I was about to say.
One is very cool and the other one is very not.
He claimed he was introduced to Ween concert and spree murder at the age of 14.
RFK Jr. killed in the pit at a Flaming Lips show.
He was expelled or suspended from multiple boarding schools due to drug use. Holden Caulfield wannabe. He allegedly sold cocaine while at Harvard University, which I imagine is a very lucrative line of work. He publicly admitted to snorting cocaine off of toilet seats, which I believe he said on the Theo Vaughn podcast.
Yes.
Based.
I said, I used to blow rails off a toilet seat.
He eventually was arrested for heroin possession in 1983, which led to treatment and recovery.
Yeah, and the article mentions allegations not confirmed that he may still use psychedelics like DMT recreationally, which will fucking blow your doors off if you take enough of it. I should note, and I think it's just very important to highlight that also Olivia Nuzzi's ex, Ryan Lizza, said that there were this type of drugs happening. So it's very possible that he is doing this thing where he's dipping a cigarette in psychedelics or stuff like that going around. Whatever it is, he's making America healthy again.
Despite his past addictions, he says now that he's sober and has spoken about recovery. So in March 2026, a federal judge overturned his vaccine policy changes, calling them arbitrary and capricious and unscientific. Getting us up to the current day, early April, he faced some pretty intense congressional hearings over his vaccine stances, budget cuts, agency shakeups. He also defended misleading claims about Medicaid funding. Experts called those statements inaccurate. He was mocked for defending mathematically impossible claims that Trump reduced drug prices by 600%. I'm just letting that sit for a second. 600% reduction. Thank you. Same month, a federal judge blocked his attempt to restrict gender-affirming care funding, ruled it unlawful overreach. He faced some public/media criticism over his lack of medical credentials and clear policy direction. And then he had a minor health scare last month. He was seen limping.
He was just fucking blown out of his mind on DMT, that's all.
And now we're at the part of the show document that says animals and has little paw prints on it.
I added that.
We love our little critters here at Posting Through It.
We actually do, though. We actually do. I know Madeline wants to be a cat mom.
I want a cat.
Yeah, she was so sad. I want a cat.
I really want one.
We're going to make this happen. We're going to make sure you get a cat. What do you want to name the cat?
Birdo.
Birdo. Okay. All right.
That's the name of my group chat with Yona and Justin, who are my best friends. And I told Justin I would give him a shout out on Posting Through It tonight. Justin.
Oh, shout out Justin. I love Justin.
Yeah, I was I was thinking of a cat named Winona because I was seeing the discourse around Winona Ryder. I don't know if you guys saw this, but basically there were a bunch of people were chattering about Jamiroquai complained about that she wanted to have sex too much and that her boobs were too big. So I was like, recently I've been thinking about Winona Ryder for that reason. I was going to name a cat after Winona Ryder.
My cat? You're going to name my cat?
Yeah, I was going to. My cat.
When you get that cat, before or after you get the tattoo that you're contemplating, Madeline, I would strongly advise keeping this animal away from our head of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yes.
Who?
Oh my God.
Who cut the genitalia off a dead raccoon. He said he was pulled over during a road trip and cut off a raccoon that was dead in the road, cut off the raccoon's penis to, quote, study later.
To study later.
Hey, man.
No, you don't have a comment, Madeline?
I'm just disassociating a little bit, but I'm coming back, so very troubling behavior.
You just study later, the penis.
It's the kind of thing you send an adolescent to a school counselor for.
He decapitated a dead whale once. You familiar with this one?
That's quite a task.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he used the hacksaw. And he transported the head. According to his daughter, he used a chainsaw. Oh, it was a chainsaw. I'm wrong, not hacksaw. To remove the whale's head and strapped to the family car roof. Fluids reportedly leaked.
It's disgusting.
He cut off a whale head and then put it on top of the family car like it's a fucking Christmas tree or something.
And he dumped a dead bear cub in Central Park.
How did they nail down that scoop again? Okay, so the thing about the scoop is that it was reported by Claire Malone for the first time in The New Yorker, but Olivia Nuzzi had the story first and she killed it. And then she tried to kill it, unfortunate choice of words, like at The New Yorker. She was trying to get a copy of Claire Malone's profile before it came out.
You don't have to feel bad. It was already dead.
That's true.
He didn't kill the bear. He just found it.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
And like a normal person sees a dead bear and then just takes it with them.
And then just brings it into the major city.
Yes, and then dumps it there. Collected animal parts, e.g. skulls, described as having a long-running habit of collecting animal remains like skulls, especially from dead animals.
If you're wondering how this stuff started, RFK Jr. reportedly said that he's been, quote, picking up roadkill my whole life and sometimes dissecting it out of curiosity.
I've never done that one time.
I have trouble with this one, actually. It's kind of gross. I can't. I'm sorry.
Do you need me to do
It's
it?
like I'm going to throw up, actually. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll just say he allegedly blended chicks and I'm going to puke. I can't.
He allegedly blended
Oh.
chicks
Oh,
and
no.
mice together to feed hawks. This was reported via family accounts that he used a blender to.
I'm going to genuinely barf.
Michael and I once watched the Liver King documentary. Michael is a vegetarian leaning pescatarian. Although I will say this man loves fish, and it's really gross, and he didn't take it well. We had to turn it off.
Yeah, I also said, like, did you know that the Liver King did steroids? I can't believe that.
Yeah, the
Liver King did steroids. That man.
Yeah,
you told me now for the first time.
The reveal was that the Liver King did steroids, and
the guy with pectoral muscles that look like giant blocks, like cinder blocks. That guy did steroids. I wanna just quickly point out, and I think you guys will agree with me. All right, actually, let's bring it to a discussion before we end this, okay? I just want to talk amongst ourselves here. How the hell how could the Democratic Party not be able to steal the momentum about health and wellness from these fucking people when it's led by this guy? Is the first thing. I want to just say this shit is Netflix monster series coded shit, okay? Like, I'm sorry, blending fucking mice and fucking chicks in a blender is like, this is Ed Gein shit, okay? This is Jeffrey Dahmer type shit. I'm not saying that he's a serial killer, although there's all kinds of unanswered questions. This guy's got quite a I don't know what to say about it, but
all I will say is that there are so many unsolved murders in the United States every year.
It's not a big deal, doesn't it?
I don't know that RFK Jr. is connected to any of those unsolved cases, but I also don't know that he's not. I haven't done the reporting. I can't say for sure. I can't say for sure that he wasn't involved.
Who can say that this leather-skinned, wild-eyed psychopath who's had a brain worm in his head and is potentially dipping cigarettes in DMT, and is blending like whale heads in a fucking vat or whatever. Who says that this guy can't tell me how to live my life health-wise? He's the guy. That's the guy we need. I personally, do you guys think that the Democrats can put together something that will steal some attention from this in a practical way?
We need to put Cory Booker in a gym with what's like the liberal coded equivalent of Kid Rock. Like Bruce Springsteen, he needs to work out with
Meghan Trainor.
I think it's I just think it's really unfair to the boss to compare him to Kid Rock.
Yeah, it's Meghan Trainor.
We'll go with Meghan Trainor. Shirtless Cory Booker. He's just wearing a pair of bootcut jeans, and he's in the personal home gym of Meghan Trainor, doing roids and bench presses. Alabama flips for Democrats by 36 points if this happens.
Yo, you sound like you've been smoking DMG.
Nah, dude, I've been listening to the Nate Silver podcast. That guy's smart.
So, Madeline, what are your thoughts? You're the one who you actually, people don't, haven't, maybe if you haven't seen Madeline's video, she did a little video where she was interviewing some of these folks that were down there, and she was asking them, would you be willing to vote Democrat? If a Democrat had a different thing. I thought it was a really good take. Madeline's been really good at that for people. You're going to plug it at the end, I hope. But she did a great video with My Perfect Union about trad wife influencers that helped show that they weren't necessarily all they had been not influencers, I should say, but trad wives, like the real life trad wives, and that they weren't everything that had been the way people stereotype them in liberal media necessarily. And I think when you ask them about if they'd be willing to vote for a left-leaning candidate or a Democrat, it seemed like they were amenable to it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, the MAHA coalition has low partisan identification. The problem is that the leadership of the Democratic Party and the parasitic class of consultants that just make millions of dollars off of our misery by electing Republicans, by telling people that the best way to win Democrats is, for example, anyway, whatever. The Democratic Party hates regular people. They just hate regular people. And they put the onus of responsibility on individual voters who, these people are supposed to be. They label Trump supporters and MAHA supporters as like stupid conspiracy theorists. And like, certainly there are segments of this movement that believe dumb things and believe in conspiracy theories. But like, for example, I spoke with a mother who was with her young child, and I asked her what brought her out today, and she said, I want transparency. I want transparency in what's going into our food and what's going into our crops and the things that I'm giving my children. That's a completely reasonable thing to want. But the Democratic Party looks at her because maybe she has some anti-vaccine views, or maybe she, whatever, watches, The High Wire with Del Bigtree or whatever. She didn't say that, but like, that she is, like the unwashed masses that are not to be taken seriously. And that's how they consistently lose these elections. So like, these voters are winnable, but you need an anti-corporate, anti-elitist leader of the party. And you certainly don't have that in Washington. I don't see anyone in the Democratic Party leading the presidential field that can step up and fill that role. Maybe someone gets hip to it and starts speaking their language. That would be great. But, a corporate-backed Democratic Party, which is what we have, totally unwilling to look at its own failures, is not going to be able to redirect the MAHA coalition. It's just like Democratic politicians are so afraid of having conversations with normal people because, like, through that, they're afraid they'll be exposed to these, like, insane triangulating corporate-owned like robots, right? Like, because that's what they are. And they can't just hear people. They won't hear people. So, the people that are willing to hear them out is people like Steve Bannon and RFK and Trump, because they see the utility of getting massive popular support in order to sort of run this scam on the population. I think all the time about this time that Steve Bannon on the show War Room, which is something I used to cover heavily, had on a Black grandmother from Watts in Los Angeles who was angry about how LA Unified School District, which is the largest school district in the country, had handled COVID restrictions. And this was just like some random woman that apparently got in contact with War Room, and he had her on as a guest. And she spoke about why she has been harmed and how it's been difficult for her to manage her family under COVID restrictions. It's like they'll bring anyone into the tent, anyone. And the Democratic Party has spent more time fighting its own left flank, which is the younger flank, the future of the party, than it actually has fighting MAGA.
Yeah, no, the Democrats were like, after the 2024 election being like, we need a popular podcaster. We need somebody that connects with young people. We need this. And then Hassan Piker's profile continues to grow. And they're like, actually, this is a huge problem for us.
No, I mean, it's insane.
It's just like, what do you don't want authenticity. You want just like free advertising or
Yes.
like it's so disconnected from reality. And until they pull their heads out of their own asses and start talking to people like they're not the dumbest motherfuckers alive, they're going to keep losing. But maybe this is my pessimism, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. I am hopeful that generationally things can change as younger people start moving into positions of power or getting access to power, becoming more influential, or having more impact in their lives as they grow older. But for now, it feels a bit bleak. Madeline, what tunes are you bumping lately?
I'm listening to Ween. I'm listening to
Oh, yeah.
Underworld. I'm listening to.
I'm being trolled.
Madeline, how do you feel about the audio quality loss that can occur during dithering, which is the process of sampling down a digital file for easy compression and transfer via online streaming services. Some people believe that this causes a noticeable loss, as opposed to, say, the experience you could have by collecting hundreds and hundreds of CD-ROM copies of your favorite albums and storing them in your home office.
No, I'm really glad that you brought this up because I was really
These are the issues that the Democratic Party will not talk about this.
No, yeah.
And it's important that people have a space for it.
Well, I'm getting dunked on, but I want to just before we go, everybody needs to subscribe to Madeline's Substack, which is number 2 pencil. You need to go get that. We're going to put it in the replies, the comments, whatever what is it with the show notes, whatever the fuck we do. We're gonna plug also your video for My Perfect Union, which is great. You can see how compelling Madeline is on screen. You can have her learn from her about trad wives, and you are gonna plug now.
Okay. By Strange People on the Hill.
That's right.
It is a great book, reads like novel, story of how extremism tore apart a small town, West Virginia. I actually reviewed it on Amazon, and then I accidentally reported my own review. So not sure if it's...
This is the story of my life.
It's a great book.
Give it a positive review on Amazon and Goodreads.
It's really important for the listeners of Posting Through It to go review Strange People on the Hill. Just throw a few sentences about how much you loved Mike's book.
Yeah.
And also we mentioned Chicago. Madeline's been known to swing through Chicago. Mike's been known to swing through Chicago.
I swing through Chicago as a fetus.
Swinging from the umbilical cord through the Windy City, down across Lower Wacker Avenue. No, we've been playing with the idea of maybe doing another live show in Chicago, but podcast metrics are hard if you live in Chicago, and that sounds like something you'd be down to go to. Reach out to us, let us know. It'll help us get a sense of the pulse,
Where do you want to do it? What venue was your dream venue?
Your parents' house.
Dream venue, yeah. Your parents' house, maybe Justin's house. Maybe the doggy daycare I take Pierre to sometimes when I have to go out of town.
There's a built-in audience there.
Yeah, they're really cute too. No, we'll get thinking about it. It depends, but I think that's all we got for this week, folks. We'll see you on the premium feed on Thursday. We'll see everybody else here next week on Monday. Take care.
Don't chop off any whale heads also.
Kisses.